The convention will reconvene.
Yeah, that's why they call it a convention.
We will now proceed to our next item of business, the re-nomination of Donald J. Trump for President of the United States.
It is my distinct honor as the chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party to welcome you, President Trump, Vice President Pence, and all of our assembled delegates to the Old North State. 4 years ago in Cleveland, Donald J. Trump accepted the Republican nomination for president and promised to build a stronger America both here and abroad. Since winning the 2016 election in historic fashion,
In a historically unfair fashion,
President Trump has worked relentlessly every single day to keep his promises to the American people. He has built the strongest economy in U.S. history.
no, it was not the strongest economy in history. To be fair, the strong economy Donald Trump inherited from Barack Obama was very good, but when your government gives so much money to the giant corporations, you're bound to have a good economy for a while until the national debt catches up 20 years in the future.
By enacting record-setting tax cuts,
Also running up the national debt.
dramatically cutting red tape and bringing manufacturing back to America.
I mean, he brought some jobs back to America, but some of them are just gone for good because technology and automation, you know?
Promise made, promise kept. He has rebuilt the American Armed Forces.
Yeah, the military budget is like twice as big as it needs to be. Imagine if we used all that money to pay back the national debt.
Supported our military families and honored our veterans. Promise made, promise kept. He has reshaped the federal judiciary by nominating over 200 conservative federal judges, including Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, to the Supreme Court.
Yay, now we have rapists in every branch of government.
Promise made, promise kept. And he has put America first by standing up to China
Yeah, the trade war has drastically hurt both sides,
and negotiating treaties like the USMCA
whose difference from NAFTA is basically negligible.
and Phase 1 China trade deal, which treat American farmers, manufacturers, and small businesses fairly.
Just so you know, Joe Biden's Buy American plan is much better than whatever Trump's is for American workers.
Promise made, promise kept. I would submit to this convention that no president has done more for the American people in his first 4 years than President Donald J. Trump.
Why is this party so full of ass
Madam
kissers?
Chair, as we look at the challenges that America will face over the next 4 years, it is crystal clear that we need a leader who has the strength to fight for every American every day.
Yep, Bernie Sanders is our guy.
When it comes to this election, there is only one choice for America. Only President Trump will eradicate the coronavirus and rebuild our economy.
Unlike Biden, Donald J. Trump has never eradicated any pandemics or rebuilt any economies.
Only President Trump will end our reliance on China and bring manufacturing jobs back to America.
At the cost of prices for American citizens. Seriously, this trade war helps nobody.
Only President Trump will provide school choice to every American child.
That's a lie. Even if you were to give every student some school vouchers, not every student has the means of transportation to get to the school they want to go to. So basically, some people will still be left in those public schools and without the funding that the public schools get because you've now sent a ton of children off to other private schools or charter schools, those public schools will do even worse. And the problem will get worse and worse as it perpetuates.
Only President Trump will ensure that law enforcement is fully funded
I wish the cops were fully funded. Right now, they're overfunded.
and protect the Second Amendment.
Yeah, the Second Amendment is worthless. Let's get rid of it.
Only President Trump will finish building the wall,
Yeah, we've got an entire 5 miles done so far.
protect our borders, and dismantle human trafficking networks.
All a 30-foot wall does is call for a 40-foot ladder. You should know this by now.
And only President Trump has the strength to lead our country through our great challenges so that every American can have the chance to live the American dream.
And you're gonna help the everyday man achieve the American dream by cutting welfare from the poor.
Madam Chair, it is my honor and great pleasure to nominate Donald J. Trump for the office of President of the United States of America.
He looks like somebody sat on the whoopee cushion he placed on a chair.
Madam Chairwoman, I am Joe Gruters, chairman from the great state of Florida.
If by great you mean in size.
Which is not only the most politically important state of the country, it's also home to the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Well, every state has its faults, I guess.
I rise today to second the nomination of the economic heavyweight champion of the world,
So
Donald
much
J. Trump, to be the
bootlicking.
Republican
What the
nominee
fuck?
for president. Who better to lead our country out of the economic impacts that we face as a result of the Wuhan virus
Racist dog whistle.
than the president who has already delivered us record low unemployment?
First of all, it wasn't record-breaking. It was a 50-year low. More importantly, though, the underemployment was devastatingly high.
For African Americans, for Hispanics, for Asian Americans, for women, and for Americans without college degrees. Under President Trump's watch, excessive regulations that once stifled job growth have been eliminated.
At the cost of the environment, which will come back to bite our ass a few years in the future. Job growth was actually slower under Trump than it was under Obama. Besides,
Jobs that have once been shipped overseas are returning to our shores. 401ks that have been down in the dumps, thriving. President Trump also knows that we are the land of the free.
of course, it's not like we have the highest prison population per capita in the entire world.
Because of the brave. That's why he has put record investments in the military.
Why though? Why don't we, instead of bombing the hell out of the Middle East, instead use that money to help the poor or build better infrastructure? Do something.
He's modernized the VA. He supported every single one of our troops.
Still no explanation of what happened with the Russian bounties.
And he isn't defunding the police, he is defending the police.
Because those police with qualified immunities and strong, unaccountable unions really need protection.
Americans want to be able to earn an honest living, have a good pay,
And yet wages have been stagnating for the last couple decades.
and want to be able to practice religion that they choose.
Then why force us to say under God in our Pledge of Allegiance?
They want to go to school without being indoctrinated.
Then why are you trying to bring federal funding into religious private schools?
They respect the flag and our founding fathers.
The flag is just a piece of cloth. Get the fuck over it. As for the founding fathers, they were a bunch of wealthy elitist aristocrats who had something to gain from seceding from Britain. They only made up their weird-ass philosophy to justify themselves after the fact.
They want an operator at the other end of that 911 call.
Who fucking
They
doesn't?
want jobs, not mobs. They want sanity, not leftist insanity.
First of all, the Democrats are a right-wing party. Second of all, left-wing insanity is an oxymoron.
And they want American first policies, not American last policies.
Like Biden's Buy American plan?
They want American pride, not American shame.
So you want American denial over American responsibility.
And they want American hope, not American decline. And because of his pro-American agenda,
Do these fools really think that someone running for president of the United States really has an anti-American agenda? Are we still in the McCarthy ages where we can just call anybody un-American?
and his love for America as we know it.
Yes, I'm sure he loves the current state of affairs in America, a corporate plutocracy that pushes down the poor to enrich the rich.
It is an honor for me and for America's benefit that I second the nomination of Donald J. Trump for a second term to the office of President of the United States of America.
At this point, the RNC proceeds to go through every state so that each person can announce how many delegates Trump won and how few delegates nobody else won.
Madam Secretary, the chair calls for a temporary suspension of the roll call. The chair recognizes Governor Scott Walker from the state of Wisconsin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was my honor to nominate our friend, Mike Pence,
I'm pretty sure Pence isn't allowed to make friends.
to serve as Vice President of these United States for 4 more years. While Joe Biden has outsourced his agenda to the radical left,
Look at his plan. No Medicare for all, no Green New Deal, no defunding the police, fucking nothing. Anybody with half a brain knows that Biden is the moderate candidate.
including Senator Harris, whose voting record, according to Newsweek, is actually more liberal than Bernie Sanders. Biden's running mate is actually to the left of a self-identified socialist.
I fucking wish.
Pence, a successful governor from America's heartland, is the perfect partner for our president as they take on the Washington establishment.
Trump is a fake populist. He has no actual intention of getting rid of the establishment because it benefits him, because it benefits the rich.
An establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for nearly 50 years. That makes Joe Biden a creature of the swamp. Mike Pence is helping Donald Trump drain that swamp.
Donald Trump keeps establishing his donors as cabinet members, many of whom, like Scott Pruitt of the EPA or recently Louis DeJoy of the Post Office, have an active interest in ensuring the failure of their own department.
And we need them there for 4 more years. Mike Pence is respected by governors and mayors and medical professionals.
Mike Pence defunded Planned Parenthood and opposed a needle exchange program, leading to the largest outbreak of HIV in American history.
All across this nation because of his leadership of the White House Task Force on Coronavirus,
which has been a complete and total disaster.
Mike Pence helped the people of Indiana see their tax relief as governor, and now as vice president, he's helped our president, Donald Trump, pass one of the largest tax cuts in American history.
Those tax cuts will add $1 to $2 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. See, the Republican Party is all about win now, fuck over whoever comes later.
A tax cut that helps nearly every taxpayer in this country.
That is just a lie. It is true that average taxes of people in each tax bracket will go down, but some more than others, and some people will actually have greater taxes than before. Now, the temporary nature of the tax cuts to the middle class and the poor mean the rich will continue to benefit, but as those benefits expire for the low and middle class, their taxes will actually go up by 2027.
A tax cut that Joe Biden wants to repeal. Mike Pence believes in the sanctity of life.
And yet you have no problem with invading the Middle East and killing a bunch of civilians.
He always has, and he always will. And he's a big reason why this administration is more pro-life than any in the history of this country.
The pro-life position is both philosophically and legally untenable.
Mike Pence believes that every child, no matter where they come from or what they look like, every child deserves access to an excellent education, be it at a traditional public school, a charter school, a private school with a voucher or a scholarship or a tax credit, or even a homeschool environment.
Charter schools don't do any better than other schools. Private religious schools, well, they're just indoctrination machines. And homeschooling, that's probably the worst of all for all the social problems the children get.
He understands that he trusts parents to make the right choice for their children.
Why would you? People are idiots. Idiots. Why do you think American democracy is such a failure?
And Mike Pence believes in public safety.
So why don't you end the war on drugs and retrain the police to be more effective?
He will defend our constitutional right to protect ourselves, our families, and our property.
Research shows that owning a gun in your home while it's being invaded does not improve your chances of survival. In fact, it might actually make you less safe.
And he supports public safety when it comes to not what Joe Biden supporters often talk about, defunding the police. But
I wish, because the police are overfunded.
Rather, defending the police. Mike Pence will always stand with the good and decent men of law and women of law enforcement who protect us every single day.
Problem is, not all law enforcement are good people. And when they are bad people, they are in a position to do much more damage than any old other bad person.
And Mike Pence understands the service and the sacrifice of our military. He understands the pride and the prayers of our military families.
Prayer doesn't work.
Because he's a part of one. You see, America deserves an outstanding vice president like Mike Pence.
With how shitty of a place America is, I suppose it may be true that we do deserve an outstandingly shitty vice president.
And it's up to all of us to ensure that he is just that for the next 4 years. But let me take a moment to tell you about Mike Pence, the person. While he respects others' traditions, Mike is guided by his Christian faith.
Can't we have one person who's guided by evidence and reason instead?
He loves our Lord, and he loves all who are created in God's image.
If we are really made in God's image, then God is kind of terrible. I mean, why would an infinite God be stuck in a humanoid body? That makes no fucking sense. And humans, we have tailbones, even though we no longer have tails. Why the fuck would God have a tailbone if it was useless to him? This makes no fucking sense. We know for sure that we were evolved by evolution from natural selection and not created by God who doesn't exist.
His faith brought him together with his wonderful wife, Karen,
Ouch to be named Karen these days.
who was an outstanding First Lady in Indiana and who will continue to be an exceptional Second Lady for the United States of America. Mike always asks about my sons.
I don't care about your personal anecdote about Mike Pence.
Oftentimes, the media doesn't understand how Donald Trump and Mike Pence can be such a great team. But I got to tell you, they're a lot alike. Both are successful chief executives.
If by that you mean they became chief executives successfully.
Both are doers, not just talkers.
Based on his 2-hour Fox News interviews, I'd say Trump's a talker.
And both have a deep and abiding love for America.
Lies.
And for the American people.
Trump cares about nobody but himself.
That's why both of them were in Wisconsin last week during the Democrats' convention while Joe Biden was hanging out in his basement in Delaware.
As he should, because coronavirus.
Delaware, the place that he hasn't left, not just to go crisscross the country, but he hasn't even been to Wisconsin one time. Please join with me with showing our support for the current and future Vice President of these United States, Mike Pence.
It's deeply humbling for me to come to you on a day like today. I heard there was a unanimous vote a little bit earlier, but let me just say, a moment like this in my life, I just can't help but think of those ancient words. Who am I? And who is my family that you've brought us this far? And I want to thank you for the honor of this day.
What the fuck does that have to do with that verse? I mean, that verse was about a family establishing a nation, but what?
The beginning of a great week for the Republican National Convention. But I got to be honest with you, I'm here for one reason and one reason only. And that is not just the Republican Party, but America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. It was 4 years ago that all of you gathered here made it possible for America to have a fresh start.
And boy, did it rot quickly.
You knew we could be strong again. You knew we could be prosperous again. You knew we could have a president who put America first again. And in 2016, you elected President Donald Trump to the White House. And think of all we've done. We revived this economy through
The economy was great when Obama left office,
cutting taxes, rolling back regulations,
fucking over the environment.
unleashing American energy, and fighting for free and fair trade.
Free and fair trade? Donald Trump slapped tariffs on like everybody.
And after years of budget cuts, this president rebuilt our military.
Why? Why can't we just spend the money on infrastructure or something to do with the American people who actually need the help rather than bombing people in the Middle
We
East?
restored the arsenal of democracy.
The American military supports 73% of the world's dictators, so I think not.
And we're once again giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Space Force the resources that they need to defend this nation every day.
We don't need that many weapons. It's just a fucking boondoggle. By the way, the Space Force is a good idea.
We've stood up for the rule of law and for our most cherished liberties.
Do you not see how the way you've administered the rule of law has reduced our liberties?
This president has seen, with your support, More than 200 men and women confirmed to our federal courts at every level, and they are all conservatives who will uphold the God-given liberties
God doesn't exist.
enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of religion.
Unless you're Muslim or otherwise not Jewish, then we're gonna block you from immigrating.
The freedom of speech.
Trump is literally trying to strengthen libel laws so he can slap a lawsuit on anybody who says anything bad about him.
And the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
Yep, let everybody keep and build a private nuke in their backyard.
And I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life.
Donald Trump's administration just had the first federal execution in fucking years.
But today is about 4 more years. This week we will take our case to the American people. And we certainly heard the Democrats' case last week. It's remarkable to think. And you understand when you listen carefully to their agenda, beyond the platitudes and the attitude,
Unlike all the things you've been saying.
you hear an agenda. That Joe Biden and the Democratic Party have been overtaken by the radical left.
No, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are still the neoliberal corporatist hacks they've always been. Shut the fuck up.
Their agenda is higher taxes,
Good.
socialized medicine,
They're really not, but good.
open borders,
So many straw men.
abortion on demand,
Are you sure? If so, good.
and cutting funding to the men and women who serve in law enforcement at every level.
No, I don't support defunding the police.
Well, we're going to take our case to the American people. It's a case of lower taxes.
For the rich. If you're poor or middle class, those changes will be temporary and then taxes will actually go up
Free
soon.
market economics,
Unless you're talking about free trade with other countries.
secure borders,
Most illegal immigrants come legally and then overstay their welcome. A strong border doesn't do anything to help that.
right to life,
Or literally for capital punishment.
and we're going to make it clear that this president, this vice president, and this party will always stand with the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement. We're going to back the blue. You know, I don't have to tell you here at the Republican National Convention, the choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher.
On that we agree.
And we'll be taking our case to the American people this week.
You have no case. All of the things you just said were just made up bullshit.
But it'll be you and the millions of Americans involved in our party in every state and territory of this nation who will be carrying that message to the phone lines and to the front doorsteps of the American people. And it's the reason why I wanted to be here today. And it's the reason why I got a good feeling you might just see a friend of mine at the Republican National Convention today.
You don't fool us, you have no friends.
Because we wanted to say thank you. We already have the largest grassroots campaign in American history, and we're going to secure 2 million volunteers before Election Day.
Not gonna bother fact checking this one.
As it really is about re-electing this president for 4 more years, but it's also about an agenda. It's about an agenda that made America prosperous.
Very. In the short term.
More prosperous than ever before.
Nope.
Before this great global pandemic struck our nation, more Americans were working than ever before. We were setting records in this economy left and right.
But so many people were underemployed. That's the
In
problem.
the midst of this pandemic, as I'll speak about Wednesday night, the leadership of this president and the compassion of the American people shone forth.
Trump's leadership included denying the coronavirus was real and downplaying its effects. And the American people's compassion, they were compassionate enough to not wear masks even though it was scientifically proven that it would save millions of lives.
And we'll continue to work every day until we put this coronavirus in the past. And when we re-elect President Donald Trump, remember it's going to be 4 more years.
Thanks, Captain
It
Obvious.
means more jobs.
Fat chance.
4 more years means more judges. 4 more years means more support for our troops and our cops.
Oh, good grief. Don't you think a budget larger than that of the next 10 countries combined is good enough already?
It's going to take at least 4 more years to drain that swamp.
Only an incompetent buffoon would take that long to do it. 8 years? Seriously?
So, men and women of the Republican National Convention, it's on. Now is the time. This is the moment for each of us to do everything that we can in our power to reelect this president, this team, for 4 more years. But let's also do our part to reelect and elect Republicans up and down the ballot. Let's reelect a Republican majority in the United States Senate, and let's make sure that Leader Kevin McCarthy is Speaker. Kevin McCarthy in a new Republican majority in the United States House of Representatives. So we've all got work to do, and I know you're up to the task. I saw the way this party, this movement, led our nation back in 2016. And I just know each and every one of you are going to do your part this year to reelect this president and elect and reelect Republicans with strong, sound, conservative principles every day.
Conservatives don't have principles, they have feelings guided by traditions. They never justified what they said, they just did what everybody else was doing and kept on doing it.
Because, you know, I heard the other day that democracy is on the ballot. But I think we all know the economy is on the ballot.
Maybe it's both?
Law and order is on the ballot. Our most cherished ideals of freedom and free markets are on the ballot. That's why we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Are you going to say anything new?
So I'm going to slip away because I have a feeling somebody else will be here before too long. The greatest honor of my life to be your vice president. And I'm going to work my heart out to be your vice president for 4 more years. And I'm absolutely convinced that if all of us do all that we need to do between now and November 3rd, if we organize, if we mobilize, if we hit the phones, if we hit the doorsteps, if we do our part in every state and every territory of this country, we're going to elect and re-elect Republican leaders all across this land. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years, and with your continued support and with God's help, we're going to make America great again. Again. Thank you all very much. An honor to be with you today. God bless the Republican Party, and God bless the United States of America.